Welcome, everyone. We have 24 people, still 24 people online. Hopefully some more will be joining us. Appreciate those of you who endured my comments last week. After I saw the video, I apologize for being the biggest part of my vocabulary. But I spent a good bit of time trying to get all those thoughts together, and hopefully we can move forward with them. Very good. And Fred Waring has not made it to the meeting. He called me about 11 o'clock and said he might not make it home to join us. So he asked Larry Leatherwood if he would be our Sergeant at Arms today and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the four-way test. So,
be ready for the go. Here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
thank you, Larry. The only announcement that I have for sure is that we will have a joint board meeting with the club board and the foundation board on July 28th at 3:30. Again, it'll be by Zoom. If some of the people feel like they would like to be face-to-face, we'll work on an arrangement to do that. But I want to let everybody know, and Cecil will be sending out an official announcement. So if you're on either or both boards, which is the case for some of you, we hope to see you on the 28th by Zoom. Cecil, are there any other announcements?
I would just thank those people who took it upon themselves to go ahead and pay their monthly love notes. We had 3 folks pay via credit card right off the statement, and just to be sure everyone understands that that does go through PayPal, and so you will likely see that on your credit card statement so that you're not surprised when that happens. This morning I wrote out and mailed a check for $3,339.13 to Rotary International for our semi-annual dues. One thought I had was there was an awful lot of 3s and 13s, and I was glad Ron Leatherwood didn't have to go through his trichotillomania phobia or whatever it is. But if, the rest of you should have your love notes already in hand, and you're invited to pay them. That's all I'll say on that subject, Steve. Thank you.
All right.
President Steve, Mark
Yes.
Baumgartner here.
Yes, Mark.
President. Yes, thank you. Just wanted to touch base and let you know that we do have the open door coming up this coming Thursday, the 23rd of July. And we're looking for 4 volunteers. We do have 1 at this point in time. That's Mr. Leatherwood. And looking for 3 more.
So that's this coming next Thursday.
I can do it.
Who is that?
Rick Croskery.
This is Rick Crosby. I can do it.
And again, who is that?
Rick Croskery.
Okay. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Rick. Anyone else? I will send out the email on Monday and see if we can come up with 2 more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Anything else from the club?
Steve, I'd like to welcome back, I guess, immediate past president Tiffany now. This is her first Zoom meeting joining us, and good to see you, Tiffany.
Good to be back finally.
Hope you're continuing to get better and stronger. If you don't hear anything else, I'm going to turn the introduction part over to John, who knows our speaker very well and may have some things to enlighten her about some of her credentials she didn't know she had.
No, she made me promise I wouldn't do that. Thank you, Steve. I don't know if you remember, but as we discussed, July is focused on leadership by Rotary International. So I did think it would be a good time to bring in my daughter, who has worked with leaders in public health arena in her career for many, many years, and hopefully share some insight on that. In the interest of time, she's asked me to let her tell her story, and I'll be glad to do that. But I am a father, so I have to say that I'm not only proud that she's my daughter and mother of 2 of my 3 grandchildren and wife of a great son-in-law, that she has at an early age had a social conscience that has been fun to see her use throughout her career, and I'm very, very proud of her, as you would imagine. She also cut me a great deal on her speaking fee today, so having said that, I'd like to say welcome, Heather, to the Waynesville Rotary Club.
Thank you for the introduction. I wish everybody could have the great gift of having their dad introduce themselves. This actually is a first for me to, I think I've spent a lot of years kind of keeping a firewall between work and family. In addition to Steve, I'm with you on the being recorded. So I've done a fair job so far of avoiding this moment, including being recorded, yet here we are being recorded together. It's an interesting time for all of us, but I am grateful for the opportunity to be part of your program today and focus on leadership, which really I'm going to reframe as influence. So sometimes I think leadership means a certain thing that may feel limiting for us. And so I'm going to invite us to think a little bigger today and think about the roles that we play across parts of our life as influencers. Before we start, I do want to say thank you to Cecil, who has been a gracious collaborator on some experimenting that we're going to do today. So thank you for the courage and the opportunity, and all the twists or whatever happens is part of the plan.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. So I do have, oh, actually, it looks as if, Cecil, screen sharing is disabled on my end.
Oh no, this is one of those twists.
This is part of the plan. So what's happening right now is we're modeling the vulnerability that it takes to try new things. And as leaders, we have to do that a lot, and we have to fail in front of each other sometimes. So this is all part of it.
Doing, because I thought I had it set for you to be able to do that. Did that help you?
While they're trying to get technology established, I probably will have to leave early, Heather, and I apologize for that.
No worries.
We've got to get up to Kingsport sometime this afternoon.
I believe you do have it now.
Does it look right? Does it look kind of like that wallpaper you wish you still had in your house?
Yep.
Awesome. So you'll see me kind of looking back and forth. I have 2 screens. I know I look like a telemarketer. This is just to keep out the sounds of the neighbor grass cutting and the kid yelling and all the things that are stacked up on top of themselves, and hopefully help you hear me better. So as we talk about finding forward in complexity, as I've already talked about, let's see if I can actually advance slides. Here's me without my Princess Leia headset on. In the part of my life that is work, I am a strategy partner and facilitator. So I'm a small business owner and consultant, primarily focused on providing, helping leaders and teams. Teams sometimes means collaborative partners. So that could be multi-agency collaborations across a community or region, working together kind of to solve messy problems in complexity. For me, the context of complexity also always includes a focus on health. So whether it's public health or healthcare, kind of human flourishing in the broadest sense, my work has been focused and is now still focused on supporting leaders and teams in the context of health, and with a focus on collaborative advantage. We don't often think of those words together all the time, but I really like the sense that is, what does better together look like? And much of my work over time has been focused on that. If y'all excuse me, I'm going to do a little technical check here to see if I can get everybody's face. There we go. So when I screen shared, most of you went away, and I want to see the whole Brady Bunch here. Gotcha. Okay. So a little bit about me. I so much wish we were sitting together having lunch in Waynesville right now. I am still in Western North Carolina, but I'm standing here with you today in Hendersonville. We've lived here about 13 years. So obviously that means we're not from Western North Carolina. Got here as fast as we could figure out, I think, as many of us say. Actually grew up, I don't know, you may know some of these things already, but I grew up in the rural Florida Panhandle in a small town. And my dad mentioned social conscience. I don't know, kind of becoming aware of that as much as it has always been of interest and clear to me that I was curious about health and helping people in some way. Big influence in my life. My grandmother was a pediatrician in our town, so I have no doubt that that had a lot of influence on some of my early thinking. So that led me to, I have a degree in biomedical science, which maybe I thought was going to be down a more medical track. Through some life experience, realized that the place that I wanted to influence really was more on the prevent the cause, not treat the symptom side of things. So in that path, in that journey to kind of bigger macro prevent the cause at the system level, pursued work and a degree in public health. So next to my name, you see MPH. That's not miles per hour. That's Master's in Public Health, where my degree is in health behavior. So my whole career in some form or another, and I give my poor family a lot of credit for trying to figure out how to describe to other people what it is that I do, because I know it's messy and hard and it changes a lot. So I've worked within the health space, technical, operational, and strategic at a lot of different intersections. So whether it be research and practice, or as a facilitator across different partnerships, or as the formal leader of nonprofit organizations. As my dad mentioned, a lot of that has been in working with leaders across organizations. So with that frame in mind, and my passion for people is what brought us here today. So in general, all things human and how we can work better together to flourish is what gets me up every day and saying yes to this sort of thing. So we're going to do some old-fashioned hand raising, and this is going to feel really weird because you're in your house probably by yourself, but we're going to be brave. We can do hard things because we're influencers. So what I wish I could do in person, we're going to try to do now, is to get to know you a little bit more. So I'm curious. Let's see, my guess is, if you will, humor me and either give me a thumbs up or raise your hand if you have lived in Western North, or Rick is going to be fancy and do it the electronic way, but you can do it that way, or you can push a button. If you have lived, Rick's giving me a thumbs up anyway. I like it just as practice. We don't even know what the question is yet. Perfect. Keep them coming, Rick. I would not be sad if you just thumbs up the whole time I'm talking today. Okay. Who has lived in Western North Carolina at least 10 years? Thumbs up all around. Who would say they are from here and have grown up in Western North Carolina most of their lives? Awesome. What a beautiful place to call home. I can imagine what it would be like to be from here always. So as we think about leadership, who right now is leading an organization in this context? Steve, I'm not seeing everybody. So we have a couple of, there we go. I lost some folks. Steve, Ken, Jeff, currently leading in a very interesting time of complexity. Who in the past maybe has retired from an executive leadership position of some type? Show of hands or thumbs up. Like the happily retiree hand raisings and head nods. Other types of influence. What about nonprofit boards? Who serves on nonprofit boards right now? Lots, that's what I thought. Awesome. Let's see, everybody has family, is part of family, another level of influence. So this is my favorite one. So this is going to give us a chance, just a spoiler alert, to all raise our hands as the CEOs of our life, right? So Chief Experience Officer of your life. There's only one candidate for the job and you don't get to apply, you just get it, right? Everybody. I bring this up because I proudly now say that I'm trying to get better at not just being a boss, but the CEO of my life, is sometimes we forget about that part. As the influence that comes from that, as the kind of choice and voice that comes from that role that we are the only candidate for. So cheers to you all as CEOs, whether chief executives or chief experience officers of our lives. And from all of those hats and all of that influence, we're going to jump in to our content today. Thank you for showing up in the spirit that we're all CEOs of how we spend our time. You could make very different choices about how you wanted, what you wanted to be doing today. So it is always a gift when I receive time and space. What we're going to focus on today is kind of in 3 parts. The first part is about context. So I'm going to talk about kind of the context as I think about it when we think about complexity. In the middle, the big adventure of this day is you are going to have some time for some one-on-one sort of connection in Zoom rooms. And then I'm going to share a few ideas kind of from my journey about what path forward looks like in complexity. Excuse me. Okay. So doing work in complexity, I'm always thinking about what is the most simple way to talk about it. I have had very few experiences where laying complex frameworks on top of complexity helps anybody do anything better. So I'm always thinking about how can we talk about strategy when things are really messy. So at the most basic sense, strategically, where are we now? Where do we want to be? And how do we bridge the gap? How do we build a bridge between the two? So for today, when I talk about finding forward, well, let me back up. So part of the first part we're going to talk about is context. So I'm going to kind of zoom us way out to say, no matter what specific problem is we might be trying to solve, what is the bigger context kind of around all of it, in particular when we're talking about humans and human systems. Where do we want to be? We're actually going to spend less time on that part today, but assume that for the most part, for this context in leadership, we're talking about an improved state. And to me, finding forward is in the middle. My particular obsession is in the how, not necessarily even all the different what's that are involved in this, but in how we do what we do. And in particular in human systems is a really important piece of it. Okay, so our context as influencers, which we've all agreed now that we are, or leaders. Okay, y'all first, because sometimes we have to say the obvious things because we forget them. Maybe this slide is only for me, but my kind daughter reminds me often that, Mom, it's okay, we're humans, not robots. So as a recovering perfectionist, I have to be reminded that the stuff happens and being human by itself is a little unpredictable and imperfect. It also means that there's lots of facts and feels about showing up in that space. I don't think we acknowledge probably enough all the feels side. So just here we will normalize, it's not weakness, it's not weirdness, it's just human, that as we do this work, because we're human too, there are some feels associated with all of it. We probably all have feelings about our feelings, and that is normal too. Which, and whether we're leading the change or we're working with other people who are part of it, is an important part of the equation to pay attention to. as humans and in the work that we're doing, whether it's in organizations that you're leading, whether it's in teams like your Rotary Club, whether it's in different spheres, we are both influencing and are influenced by our context. So part of what I think is important in this piece just helps us shape and is part of what puts us in that sort of complex space. And when I keep saying the word complexity, I'm talking about kind of those cloud problems, not clock problems, about things that don't have a clear path forward necessarily, where all the parts are influencing each other. Different than something that I would call complicated, like putting together the IKEA desk or something that has steps. Like, it's hard to figure out, but it's figure outable. So when we think about influence, either in how we show up in the world or the places that we want to influence, and that what impacts us or the people that we're working with, kind of acknowledging that there's us, there's family and relationships. We may be leading or influenced by organizations, whole community, and policy. So when I talked about public health and kind of preventing cause, not looking at symptoms, we're always thinking about both the factors that create problems and then the solution space around them at all these different levels. Changes everywhere. So if I was giving this talk 6 months ago, I would have been talking a little bit more about kind of the context of health and public health specifically, in so much as there's increasing recognition we cannot afford in dollar bills or health outcomes for things to stay the same. Today, I stand with you in the context of a global pandemic, and I don't need to tell anybody about change or acknowledge change right now at every level of influence and experience that we're in. Even outside of our current context, increasingly, I connect with this acronym that explains kind of the experience and the feelings of the experience in an acronym called VUCA. Cited it on the bottom. I didn't invent it. I borrowed it. VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. I like this acronym because it gives words to some of the other stuff that's hard to kind of understand or talk about, but is important in the context, because it changes how we approach problems. It changes the who, how, why, and everything about what we do. And we all kind of have different skills or feelings about these different pieces. So for example, I think I've already probably said this, but this complexity thing that some people are like, give me a spreadsheet, make that go away. I love this part. I love the messiness of it. I love the untangling. I love strategy in this context. I love problem solving at this scale. Not everybody does. So that's important to know about me or the team or the people that you're working with. This one, uncertainty, this sort of groundlessness, is very hard for me. And I think as humans in general, we don't like uncertainty. Our brains can't really wrap their heads around it from a neurological sense. So to me, a helpful way just to remember all the factors at play when we think about finding forward and planning and influencing, in particular in human systems and in complexity. So what is the opportunity? So I confess I'm a glass half full kind of thinker, and as I show up, but I do think that there's tremendous opportunity for improvement and human flourishing and shared thriving even in a context of that level of complexity. And not just of change, but for improvement. So I know as leaders a lot of times, and we've all read books and been part of talks and had strategy around change management or driving change. I'm going to invite us today to remember that what we really are trying to do is drive or influence improvement. And you got to do things a little bit differently, as we know, to understand which is which. But we'll assume that what we really are seeking is improvement, not just different, right? We've all been part of change that didn't feel like it was better. So let's pivot at this part in the talk to bring in some of this context into a reality, a shared space that you all have in common, which is Rotary. I am not a Rotarian. I have been influenced by many of them over 2 generations at least of Rotarians. Thank you, Rick, for the thumbs up. So I pulled this quote from the Rotary International site and immediately got excited because it kind of reinforces a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, acknowledging all the hats that we wear as neighbors, friends, leaders, and problem solvers. It's talking about people being united, which to me is around collaborative advantage to take action. So we're not collaborating just because, but it really is about driving. Here they say change, I'd encourage improvement, but that's the intention. And that the change that is mentioned here to me is global, is community, and is change within ourselves. So when we talk about finding forward, I think also often when we're doing work that kind of feels external, we forget that we too are part of the change process. So with this frame in mind for what Rotary is about, we're going to invite some small group conversation. Cecil's going to be the one behind the scenes to make this happen, but I'm going to explain a little bit how it's going to work. So we're going to break into hopefully groups of 2 or 3, Cecil, however you want to divide us up. It's randomly going to sort us to be with each other. You're going to facilitate, or just you're going to chat together without a facilitator. I'm not going to be there. Cecil's not going to be there unless it randomly puts us there, and I'm not sure. To talk together about, in the context of complexity that we're in right now, what are some opportunities or challenges that Waynesville Rotary is facing in this context? So we just chat together. So the intent is whoever has an idea first in the group, I think can go, just go first, and be mindful that you only have 6 minutes for everybody to share. I also want to normalize that if you don't have things to share, if you're just not feeling like sharing, it's also okay to pass. This is not about forced participation, but it is an opportunity for you all to get a chance to talk with each other. After 6 minutes, because Cecil's doing magic behind the scenes, Zoom's just going to bring you all back together. So you don't have to worry about anything that feels like technology maneuvering. You'll just break in groups and come back together. Cecil, is there anything else about how this works that I missed?
I don't think so. I don't know whether you'll automatically be unmuted when you go into your rooms. If not, you may want to look at that yourself on your end and be sure you are unmuted. As Heather said, neither of us will be in all 3 rooms.
Okay, so we're going to break into groups of 2 or 3. So actually there'll be several rooms. Get in a small group.
Absolutely. And we
we're
solve all the problems of the world.
Perfect. Just create a bunch of influencers 6 minutes to start digging in probably. And just as you're getting into it, it sucked you all back in. Again, thank you for the grace in the experiment. I think it's just another way of how we're trying to figure out how does technology enable us to do some of the stuff that we know is important, like connect and have deeper conversation. I do wonder, and I regret that it's already 1:52 and we're supposed to be done in 8 minutes. So I'm behind on my delivery with this. But if somebody, maybe just a quick, anybody off mute wants to share a couple of quick words or phrases that stand out to you from your breakout. We'll just take a couple of these. Maybe let's do opportunities. Give me a couple of opportunity examples. Can they unmute themselves, Cecil?
Yes.
Okay. It's an opportunity that stood out for you in your conversation about Waynesville Rotary in this context.
One from our group, this is Ed, was the issue of the opportunity is going to be there for increased participation in child feeding programs here in the county. And when we take a look also at the issue of child care. When you look at students that are not in school and parents that are going to have to provide some kind of supervision and adult oversight.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, the social needs in the context of COVID, for sure. What's another example of opportunity that you see?
This is Paul. Larry and Jeff and I talked about how we could do things like maybe in thinking about new ways to be ringing the bell, which is one of the most favorite things that we do each Christmas time for the Salvation Army and meeting people. But how do we do that in this new season? And also how Rotary and Rotary members can give leadership as we try to come back to a more normal life, but doing it in new and focused ways to make sure the Rotary spirit of service gets out to our community.
Thank you for the shares. Oh, George wants to share?
Well, we as a group, we're trying to think of how do we move from where we are, which is the chaos of coronavirus, and use this as a positive opportunity to move to where we want to be. How do we get more younger and more aggressive people into the club? And we thought we could do some, even after we were freed up from having to do Zoom, we could occasionally do a Zoom and send out hundreds of invitations, because on that week we're going to have this nationally known person who's going to speak. And please come and join us. And he'll speak especially to the 20-somethings and 30-somethings of the community. And perhaps we might get hundreds of people into a Zoom that is sponsored by Rotary, attended by Rotarians, plus our many friends that are younger. Also in our group, we talked about this coronavirus is pointing out the vulnerability of many nonprofits. And perhaps going forward, we will need to look at service opportunities that would focus in upon some of the most needy ones that we feel need the affirmation of Rotary.
Heather, we could extend Hendersonville to our community of members, you know that. And I think you would meet that criteria, and also a good age group, okay?
Noted. Got it.
One of the things that tie back in with what Paul and Larry's group did on ringing the bells would be that we talked about in our group was we need to, just what Paul was alluding to, find younger folks and maybe open up and try to work toward having younger volunteers participate in some of what we go out and do in the community. Let them be part of service projects, and maybe then that would encourage them to join our club.
Thank y'all for the share. I am amazed at the volume of ideas that came up from 6 minutes of conversation. So certainly hope that you all will continue the dialogue. Every organization right now is thinking about what forward looks like in this context. So I'm excited that y'all had a chance to have some of that conversation today. As somebody that's really committed to finishing on time, I'm going to pivot a little bit and try to bring us back. Let's see if John Keith, you can give me a thumbs up if you see a slide that says highlights and insights. Is he listening?
Yes, I do not.
You do not see anything?
No.
Okay. That is just telling me I need to
Here we go.
Share.
Oh, that's the four-way test.
That might be, I was checking your.
There we go.
There you are. There you are.
You got it.
Cecil, did you interfere with my screen sharing?
No
Come on
doubt.
now.
No doubt.
Okay. That was part of the twist that we planned. All right, highlights and insights. So I had some thoughts that I was going to share about forward and complexity that I'm just going to buzz through today for all levels of our influence. As I've mentioned already, I think as we think about all that, whether it's in service or in organizations or as we interact in this space, it's not just what we do, but how we do it that matters. We've talked about this already, but encouraging the conversation to not just be about managing change, but about influencing or even inspiring improvement. As we get clear in the beginning about what success looks like, in particular when we work across people and teams everybody getting on the same page in the beginning about what success looks like and for who is our customer or who is our stakeholder. What does success look like for them, right? That's the where are we now, where are we going? That's the where are we going box, and making sure that we all agree before we get on the path between them where we're trying to go. I encourage folks to acknowledge and find focus in complexity. Sometimes when it's real complex, we feel like we have to address all of it. And sometimes we get stuck just in a tiny part. I think we need both. Strengths-based, in my experience, gets us further. So building on strengths and filling gaps. Stay curious. I write stay curious. Any of us who have kids or grandkids in the house know that we are born curious. Sometimes we lose some of our curiosity, whether it be in the problem or the solution or along the path. I encourage us to stay curious throughout the process. Communicate like it matters. We all know that this is important. We also know it's really hard, in particular as things get more complex. And to me, communication is the currency of how we optimize collaborative advantage. So it's how we work together to solve problems. So we need to make sure that we keep that on the forefront. Supportive connections. I don't need to tell this group of friends about the value of supportive connection. As we do the work, there also may be partnerships and connections that are important to think about. Understanding our impact. So just because we're where we are and we want to be somewhere else and build a bridge doesn't mean it makes it. So making sure we're doing the work to understand whether we're reaching the impact that we have in mind. Making space for the ands. So we know that as we do this, in the and is what is human and is sometimes empathy and accountability. It's push and patience. It's the complexity of holding tension for all of those things at the same time. And it's a process, not a procedure. So kind of no matter what the journey and the path that we're on, we know it, we're not going to check it all off the list and be done. It's that continuous improvement, ongoing and iterative process over time. We're out of time today as the clock strikes 2, and I don't know how committed y'all are to ending exactly on time. Maybe I can just send this link out. Cecil, do y'all communicate? If I really wanted to show this video, but I'm out of time,
yes,
maybe
I'll be glad to send it out for you.
Or I guess in the fabulous recording of my fidgeting and ums can maybe be this slide that is the pep talk from Kid President. Part of this falls into the inspire forward category. All the context that we have talked about together and the journey forward is challenging. Even if we believe that the best prize that life offers is the chance to work hard at work worth doing, it gets tricky. And so I think finding things that feel inspiring to us or that inspire others are helpful. Kid President is one of those people for me. So I encourage you to watch Pep Talk from Kid President. Otherwise, I think I am at time, and I'm just going to say thank you for the opportunity to be here. As I thought about preparing and my nerves about this talk today, I was reminded the gift that it is to be my one claim to fame, which is John's daughter, and that for my whole life. So when I was a little girl visiting him at the bank and he let me in his office, it felt like a gift to be given space and voice. So I appreciate him letting me in to his office again today. Thank y'all for showing up. Cheers to Forward and the journey. As you come off mute, I'll invite you, if you are up for it. This is the end, right? See, so y'all don't have business after me?
That's correct.
I invite you to say a word or phrase that stands out to you from today as you leave the meeting, if you're so inclined.
I believe President Steve has checked out. President-elect Jeff, would you like to dismiss us And then we'll follow with Heather's request for those still online.
Heather, thank you very much. And John, thank you for that wonderful introduction. My word is chaos, but we will live with chaos and move forward. And if there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, have a great weekend.